Ambassador Zixthor had witnessed many species across the galaxy, but nothing had prepared him for humanity's true nature. The elongated insectoid diplomat stood before the Galactic Council's observation deck, his compound eyes fixed on the holographic display showing Earth's solar system. "They're doing it again," whispered Council member Vrina, her translucent form shimmering with anxiety. "The humans are mobilizing." The conflict had started 3 cycles ago when the Krath Dominion, a militant empire known for swift conquests, had attacked a human colony on the frontier world of New Hebrides. It should have been a simple annexation. The Krath possessed superior numbers, advanced plasma weaponry, and a battle-hardened fleet that had subjugated 17 species in the past century. But the Krath had made a fatal miscalculation. They had assumed humans were like every other species in the galaxy, rational, measured, bound by the mathematical calculations of acceptable losses and strategic withdrawal. Zixthor watched the tactical display as human vessels emerged from faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. What unfolded next would haunt the Galactic Council for generations. The human fleet didn't follow standard engagement protocols. There were no preliminary negotiations, no posturing displays of force, no gradual escalation through the established 17 stages of civilized warfare. Instead, the humans attacked with a ferocity that defied all galactic military doctrine. "By the ancients," breathed Counselor Morp All, his gill slits flaring in distress. "They're using kinetic bombardment. That's a war crime under the Geneva Accords." "The Geneva Accords are human laws," Zixthor corrected quietly, his mandibles clicking in distress. "Created to limit what they do to each other. We're not covered by their rules." The realization sent a wave of horror through the observation deck. Human warships, designated as destroyers in their quaint naval terminology, unleashed hell upon the Krath positions. They didn't aim for military installations alone. They targeted supply lines, communication hubs, refueling stations, and civilian infrastructure with surgical precision. Within hours, the Krath occupation force on New Hebrides found itself completely cut off, surrounded, and facing an enemy that showed no interest in their surrender. What disturbed Zixthor most wasn't the humans' technological capability. They were still centuries behind species like the Zarquan Collective in pure innovation. It was their approach to warfare that violated every principle of civilized conflict. "They're not trying to win territory," observed Vrina, her voice trembling. "They're trying to destroy the Krath's capacity to wage war entirely." She was right. Human forces bypassed the heavily fortified Krath worlds and struck deep into their empire's industrial heart. Shipyards that had stood for millennia burned. Logistics networks that supplied entire sector fleets collapsed. The humans employed psychological warfare tactics that the Council's xenopsychologists couldn't even categorize, broadcasting messages that didn't threaten violence but promised it with such casual certainty that it broke the Krath commander's will. One intercepted human transmission particularly unnerved the Council. A human admiral, a female with the improbable name of Chen, had sent a simple message to the Krath Supreme Commander. "You touched our children. There is no distance you can run, no fortress you can hide in, no treaty that will save you. We are coming, and we will not stop until you understand that humanity's mercy is a privilege, not a right." "That's not how wars are fought," Morpal protested, his scales flushing with distress. "There are rules. Proportional response. Diplomatic off-ramps." Zixthor pulled up humanity's historical database, information the Council had largely ignored when admitting Earth to the galactic community. What he found made his blood run cold. Humans had been waging war against themselves for their entire recorded history, not the ritualized combat that most species engaged in, but total war, conflicts where entire populations were mobilized, where nations spent themselves to the point of collapse, where victory was pursued regardless of cost. They had words for it in dozens of languages. Total war, Guerra outrance, Vernichtungskrieg. "Look at this," Zixthor projected images onto the main display. "The humans have fought wars that lasted decades, killed millions of their own kind, and they learned from each one. They studied defeat like a science and turned warfare into an art form. While we were negotiating trade agreements and territorial disputes through the Council, humans were perfecting the ability to destroy each other. The Krath Dominion lasted 3 more weeks before their complete military collapse. Not surrender, collapse. Their fleet scattered, their worlds sued for individual peace, and their supreme commander was found dead by his own hand, a concept alien to most galactic species. The aftermath brought an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Humanity's representative, Ambassador James Kowalski, stood before them, a middle-aged human male with graying hair and disturbingly calm eyes. "We didn't want this war," Kowalski said simply. "We tried diplomacy. We offered reparations, territorial concessions, and trade agreements. The Krath chose violence against our civilians. We responded proportionally." "Proportionally?" Vrina's voice rose in pitch. "You dismantled their entire civilization." "Yes," Kowalski agreed. "Proportional to the threat they represented. You see, Ambassador, in human philosophy there's a concept called deterrence. It's not enough to defeat an enemy. You must ensure they and anyone watching understand that attacking humanity is existentially costly. The Krath attacked one colony. We made sure no one would ever make that mistake again." Zixthor felt something he'd never experienced in 2 centuries of diplomatic service. Fear. Not of immediate danger, but of potential. Earth was still a minor power, newly arrived on the galactic stage. If this was humanity restrained, limited by primitive technology and small numbers, what would they become in 1,000 years? 10,000? "We're not monsters," Kowalski continued, his voice softening. "We're survivors. For millions of years we clawed our way up from the bottom of the food chain on a death world you'd classify as uninhabitable. We learned that mercy without strength is weakness, and strength without purpose is tyranny. We would prefer to be your friends, your trading partners, your allies. But if forced to be your enemy, we will be the most terrifying enemy you've ever faced." The council chamber fell silent. "So," Kowalski concluded, "shall we discuss the terms of the new Galactic Peace Treaty? I believe humanity has some ideas about collective security that might interest you all." As the human ambassador smiled pleasantly and began his presentation, Zixthor realized the galaxy had changed forever. Humanity hadn't just won a war. They had demonstrated that the comfortable rules of civilized conflict were merely suggestions, and that somewhere in the cosmos there existed a species that would rewrite those rules if necessary. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.